Hear me? Okay. To follow up on Wes's comment there is that also if anything is sent into the college for entry into the system, it's not going to be entered in course by course by course. It's just going to be entered in as one entry for a year for each category. Okay, so if you really want to use this system and be able to use it as a repository for your courses, you'll be the one that will be entering it in. So, okay. Thanks, Wes. Just a quick little summary of what we did last year in the competency committee. We worked on the audit, updated the course list, and brought in the new CC program, which Al kind of talked about, and or Al Fisher talked about at last year's AGM. Also, we had a large part to do with the online management system. So auditing, we do 3 types of auditing each year. We do the formal annual audit, the new member audit, and the yearly hours audit. So the formal audit, we scored 96%. That was the best that we've ever got. I think the previous best was right around 90%. 66 members passed, 3 failed. I think part of that is just because of us going to our new program that we had, but we'll see if the results continue on over the next couple of years. The new member audits, all new members to the college have their first submission of competency reviewed, audited, and comments provided back to them. In the past, it's been a paper exercise. In the future, it's going to be handled through the online management system and emails. The yearly hours audit, we have 654 members. That includes RFTs, RPFTs, and that. 599 members passed, gave us a 92%, which is the same as that we had last year. It's a little bit different than the 91% Jed said, but that's just rounding. So the online management system course list. We took the course list that we'd previously developed and had on our old website and imported it into the online management system. There are some issues with that on how it lists. We have categories of forest management, forest protection, safety, and miscellaneous, and land use. And the limitations that we ran into when we created the OMS system the first time was that it all got listed as, like, you have a list of 600 courses, which makes it a little bit onerous to go through and find the course. So we're going to be working on that in phase 2 of the online management system. It identifies courses that can be taken, also the maximum claimable hours, and the sponsoring agencies. Of course, it doesn't have all the courses out there that we can take. It's just a list that we tried to put together as a committee that would show us more of, give you guys options of where you could find some of your training. So, like I said, last year at the AGM, Al Fisher, the previous competency director, rolled out the new program. The program had 4 key areas that we wanted to look at. We wanted to make it realistic, demographically friendly, the biggest return for our training dollars, especially in these tight economic times, and remove the fluff. So essentially, remove items that are difficult to audit and that we may ever get questioned on as auditors of, how did the person prove that? So now with the new program, this will be the 2nd year that we're into, all CAT members require 75 hours of CC activities, and 45 of which must be in category 1, which is structured learning. So I'll just quickly go over the new program and what category 1, category 2, category 3 mean, and what you can claim in those. I'll quickly talk about what we're doing in the future and a little bit about committee membership. So category 1 is structured learning. Essentially, it's organized training primarily related to the practice of forestry. It can include correspondence, online tutorials, tech sessions, seminars. You can read all the different ones up there. It's not limited to this, but essentially it's organized training. So there's a knowledge transfer happening between it's a one-to-many situation instead of a one-to-one situation. So if you're just sitting down and somebody's training you over your shoulder, like on how to work Excel or something like that, we don't consider that structured learning. Now, if that person is teaching 2 or 3 people in a classroom setting or even just at their computers all at once, we look at that as organized training. It's claimable at a 1-to-1 ratio, and I'll explain a little bit of that later on. But it does not include, hours for travel, lunch, coffee breaks, socializing, those sort of things. So this some of the examples of acceptable training are Wolf. Dave Blackmore gave us a little bit of a presentation yesterday. First aid, personal development courses, tech sessions held by not only these groups but other groups that are involved in the natural resource industry. Training does not specifically have to be related to forestry. It can include, computer science courses, public speaking, anything that's going to aid the individual in their profession. Okay? Unacceptable ones are like sports clinics, science fairs. One that we always kind of debate every year, or not get debate, but we get asked about are coaching seminars. People are taking seminars on how to coach hockey, and they say that brings it, that kind of assists how I deal with people in my business. Those ones get debated every year, but we put those into the sports clinic side of it. So if you're actually taking a course on mentoring for business and that kind of stuff, then yes, that would be acceptable. So category 2 is vocational enhancement. That's attendance at meetings for industry and provincial working groups. Those include, reclamation working groups, task force or OGR negotiation groups. It does not include weekly or monthly or annual staff meetings or pre or post-season meetings. And members claim for the actual attendance, and then there's a 5-to-1 ratio put on it. So if you were at a meeting for 5 hours, essentially how it gets, once it gets entered into our online management system, maybe I'll scroll back there, I don't know if you'll see it, is that there's actual hours and then, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, reportable hours. So it's right in the middle of the screen down at the bottom. So it's, for those reportable hours, that's a 5-to-1 ratio is applied to the actual hours. Your actual hours. So like, we'll just say for, this AGM, it's going to be 2.5 hours is what's going to be claimable under that that category. Essentially, then the system goes through and divides it by 5, so you get 0.5 of an hour. Sorry, went too far. This AGM is one of these, is classified in this category. Workplace learning. Previously, we had workplace learning, which was, everybody got 5 hours a year. We tried to think of a different name for this, but it's still, we can come up with something. So, but workplace learning now is essentially attending a trade fair or a field tour that relates to the practice of forestry. Same thing, you claim for the actual hours of attendance, and a 5-to-1 ratio is applied once it's entered into the system. Acceptable ones are forestry trade shows, oil and gas trade shows, decompaction field tours, things like that. Not acceptable are like the boat and sportsman show and recreational trade shows. There is a little bit of, actually I'll talk about that in a few slides. And mentorship. Now that we have a forest technology and training program, there is a portion of that program where those people need a mentor. And so same thing, it's your actual hours for mentoring that technologist in training, and you claim it at your actual hours, and a 5-to-1 ratio is applied. Category 3, which is professional contributions, Area 1, educating. It's development and presentation of structured learning materials. Actual hours recorded for the creation and presentation of it. In the past, we used to have this formula that was like 4-to-1 if it was the first time you presented, and 2-to-1 if it was the second time you presented. 1-to-4 and 1-to-2. So what's acceptable? School presentations, at instructional field trips, in-house training. All the presentations that we saw yesterday, those were our members presenting. Those are all acceptable under this category. What isn't acceptable in these areas are full-time instructors, so guys at the Hinton Training Center, and professional safety instructors. So I know there's a few of our members that run a side business where they do snowmobile training and those sort of things. If it's part of your business for that, it's not acceptable. Published work, the preparation and writing of material for technical review. And it has to be in a magazine, journal, or a newspaper. A lot of cases we get questions around this, well, I just wrote a safety manual, or I just wrote a long, like a harvest planning manual or something else. Those don't currently fall into this category. And primarily the reason for that is generally that's looked at as part of your day-to-day job. Same thing, credited 5 to 1. No, it doesn't. Like, for example, say if it spreads over 2 years, just as long as it does finally get published, the auditor may ask, like, was it published? And if you say, well, no, it never got published, those hours may get removed at that point, but still claim them. It doesn't matter when it happens, because we all know some of those things take years to get in. So that's one problem with our system, is that you can't, once you've gone through your year, it's very difficult to go back and add hours. So if you have a published paper that you're working on for a couple of years, and you're claiming hours, that might be some of those things that you have to talk to the competency director directly and say, what should we do? Or even the registrar to make some of those decisions. These rules are always not hard, fast rules, but if you want to step outside of them, you need to talk to the competency director or the registrar. Executive committee membership, so that's holding an office, vice president, competency director, whatever in the CIF, CAPFT or CAPF. And same thing, previous used to just get an allotment of how many hours a year that you would be able to claim for holding that office. Now you claim the actual hours, and a 5 to 1 conversion is applied to it. Okay. And public relations, which is just manning a trade fair or manning a booth at a trade fair, sorry, or a public meeting, and that, and same thing, it's classified or categorized or runs at a ratio of 5 to 1. So some of the things that we're going to be looking at in the future that came out of our audit and some of the conversations with our members about the new program was we don't really have an area for self-study. And, you know, if you just simply look at our professional exam that we do every year for the new RPFTs and that, there isn't a spot for them actual self-learning. And it also comes up where there's a lot of courses where people are studying at home and then challenging the course, like AVI courses and those sort of things. So we're going to look at somehow handling that under Category 1. Same thing. We didn't have anywhere to put the professional exam when people wrote it. Where does that fall into it? So we're going to have to deal with that. Also, there's always confusion over what a field trip is and a field tour is. And so we're going to have to put some definite definitions around it that are actually in there. Field trips are claimable under Category 1, and that's where you're actually having a knowledge transfer back and forth, and that. Where field tours, it's just more or less you're kind of sitting on a bus going to look at things, or I don't know the best way to describe it, but we're going to have to put some definitions around those. So looking forward to the upcoming year, we'll be once again updating the course list, reviewing the CC program manual and forms. So what I was just kind of talking about in the previous slide, that's what's happening there. Reviewing the bylaws and policies and amending those as necessary. Developing or co-developing online courses for members, kind of what Jed had brought up earlier on in his presentation. And assisting in the OMA Phase 2 rollout and website rollout. So onto the committee membership. I'd like to thank Mark, Wally, Jeff, Chantel, and Glenn for their participation over the last year. It's been a big help. Yes, Norm. Okay. Well, we'll go around. Is Glenn Jabransky here? Okay, please stand up, Glenn. please. Mark Frower, Wally Peters, Chantel Bambrick, Jeff Scammell. There they are. And these guys work, or these guys and gals, sorry, Chantel, that forestry thing, work hard, and, you know, really this committee could not run without the volunteers. Not to scare anybody away, but I'd say you put in probably about 30 to 40 hours of time in a year, and that kind of stuff. But it's worth it. You get a lot out of it. You learn a lot about why we're doing certain things and why we have the program as it is. That's why I got involved with it, because I always thought when I first got into this college, this competency program was just a bunch of BS. And then Al Fisher convinced me that if I thought that, maybe I should sit on the committee and see what it was all about, and really, it's changed my mind. So on that, the committee requires 1 or 2 new members. It's a 2-year commitment, approximately 6 meetings a year, 4 to 6 hours, 8 to 12 hours of auditing. Generally, you have to audit between 10 and 13 people when we go through the formal audit, and about 4 hours of other committee business and that. So if you're interested, come and talk to me here at the AGM, send me an email, or just give me a phone call. And yeah, sorry. Yeah. Well, we'll just use Category 2, Area 1, which is the meetings. We used to only allow you to claim 1 hour for every meeting. So for this AGM, you'd only get 1 hour that you could claim. And that, what we said is that, okay, we'll go to the 5-to-1 ratio, and you get to claim all your hours for that meeting. So this isn't a good example, but it's a 2.5-hour meeting. But if this was an all-day meeting, you'd only get 1 hour. Now with the new way of claiming it, we'd say, okay, it's 6 hours for the all-day meeting, so you'll get 1.25 hours. So that was one of the reasons. The other reason was when you get into things like the published work and education and the sitting on the committee and the council and that kind of stuff. Like last year, I put in, I think it was just under 100 hours as being the committee director and that kind of stuff. So before I used to be able to claim 10 hours. Well, now I get to claim 20 hours. So that's the reason why it was done that way. It's a little bit confusing. We kind of knew that would be the case, possibly, but we want to continue down this path to see how it goes. The other big thing is I know we've had a lot of people ask about, well, why did we get rid of the reading? That's where I got all my competency hours. It was just the hardest thing to audit. And, you know, if we as auditors get audited by the Alberta government on it, that will be the area that we're challenged on. How did these people prove that what they read? So that's why we adjusted that and got rid of it. Now, that being said, there is validity to learning from reading and that kind of stuff, but we just don't have a place that we can right now have it in the program. Any other questions? Okay. I guess we'll hand it back to Wes. Not done yet, almost.
Everybody hear me again? So I'm just going to make this quick. We're running short a little bit on time. Back to the OMS, the administration side, the administrators have advanced functionality, different settings for different groups. So based on competency groups or competency committees, administrators or the executive, everybody has different access to different pieces of information for their requirements. They can overwrite business rules if required. They have advanced reporting and queries, password resets, and they can do information updates as well. What's Phase 2 about? Phase 2 is essentially a website redesign with the content management system. It's enhanced reporting. It's revisions to the competency entry, so we talked a little bit about that. Let's make it easier. We're going to look into online voting, so instead of the paper ballots if possible, we're going to try and look into some online voting, managing the events through the system, and as we talked about in some of the tech session stuff there, the online or collaboration is a key thing. We want to look at the possibility for online collaboration to help professionals talk to each other. Just wanted to throw you up, here's a mock-up of our website design, a little bit different than what we have now. It's going to be integrated with the management system, so I just wanted to throw this up and show you guys what it looked like. We're just going through the design phases now and doing a bunch of the content and updates to it. And that's where I'm going to wrap it up. Any questions?
Test. Well, thanks a lot, Wes and Pat. Definitely appreciate all your hard work. And, you know, they've got a lot of input in from all the members that they sent requests out to. So your direction that was provided to them is definitely appreciated as well. I liked Pat's comment about, you know, if you guys are out there sitting there not liking the way something is getting done, the tone we generally take on council, you've heard it before and I'm going to say it again, is that if you don't like it, you better come on council and do something about it. So my sell is, of course, there's going to be some nominations today, and you know, if you guys have this idea that you can make a difference, definitely would appreciate seeing you on council. Just a couple minutes left before the break, and I hope, Roger, I'm not putting you on the spot, but we have Roger here from NATE. He's the program head, and you know, I think we'd all like a little update on what's going on in the program. He's giving me a look. You know, he did this to me while I was sitting in his class, though, so I really don't feel bad.